During primary school, I genuinely thought I was stupid. I was born in Korea, right, and I came to England at a really young age. And so I don't remember much about nursery, which is like the place you go when you're like 3, 4, right? But I do remember one thing. I was overwhelmed by the new smell, sight, sounds. Everything was alien to me. But the thing that was like the most alien, the thing that threw me off the most, was the fact that I couldn't understand the jumble of syllables and sounds in my ears. I didn't know how to speak English. And so I have this vivid memory of me on my first day of nursery, just sitting down on the floor and playing with my Velcro while everyone else was like playing with their sandpit, with their Lego. I was just there by myself playing with the Velcro on my shoes because I just had no idea what was going on.
I don't know.
Basically, I had no way of learning English, right? The way you learn a language when you're young is that your parents like keep on speaking it to you. They're like, oh, like Stephen, apple, this is apple, apple. Like they do that, right? But my parents didn't know how to speak English either. They just learned a little bit at high school. And like for those of you guys who also learn like languages at high school, you know that that's nowhere near enough to actually have a full conversation. And so they spoke exclusively in Korean to me.
세상에서 제일 무서운 건 습관이야.
And so I had no way of learning English the traditional way. To learn a language, you have to speak it. But if I tried to speak English to my classmates,
What's good? Skibbity, where's gat?
they look at me funny, and obviously since I was like worse than them, my confidence would drop, and so I spoke less and less, and my ability to speak English like wouldn't improve either.
Skibbity.
And you can see from this picture I was the only outlier in my class, and so I felt kind of isolated. And so fast forward a couple of years, I'm in primary school now, and I don't know how, but like I've just like picked up English. But I still always believed that I was bad at English because of like the past experiences, and obviously I still had the disadvantage of not speaking English at home. And I still remember how I used to struggle and how like I was still pretty bad. And so my grades reflected this in primary school. I was never good at English. I was the worst at English in my class, and like I was pretty good at maths, like what the what. It was one of the things that my mum was also really worried about because like yeah, English was like my weak point. But fast forward to secondary school. In year 9, I received 4 awards at the end of the year for being the best at like a said subject, and with one of them being English. And in year 10, I similarly also received the English award. And just a couple of months ago, I got 96% in my English language and literature for my GCSE marks, which was like, to be honest, the second highest, like rip, but you still get the point. My primary school was just local and like not that smart, and I was really bad at English there. And yet in a prestigious ranked secondary school, amongst other like really clever people, I was now the best at English. How did I do that? You have to stop accepting that you are a bad student, because even if you are like a quote-unquote bad student, the beauty of it is that it's an opportunity to grow. But the thing is, this ain't a Disney movie. Like this like a video isn't gonna be like a motivational pick yourself up, like wipe your tears off, like we got this, let me hold your hand to the finish line, that type of shit. Like it's true that you can become a good student and like you shouldn't like limit yourself. But at the same time, confidence comes from evidence, and it's gonna take hard work. The best student like me was still a bad student to start with, and I'm like literally like the textbook proof of that, right? But the only difference is that the bad student is the one that accepts that. They accept that they are just a bad student. They are just like a level C English student. And they hold on to that for like the whole schooling career. Whereas the good student does things to change that and sees it as an opportunity for growth. Learning how to learn and like learning how to study are all skills. And they don't teach us that in school. So it's normal to be a bad student at the start. You might be right, you are a bad student. But the point is you can learn how to learn. You can learn how to study and you can improve. And it won't be easy. I probably read more books than all my peers. Because I was disadvantaged, I put in more work and more pain. I had to do more work to get to the point where they were without any. I had to review concepts that other people just understood the first time. And I had to learn like grammar and like structures and stuff like that other people just like took for granted. I just like spoke it because they like knew how to speak English. But all that came together to make me better than them. Because remember how I always thought I was bad at English? That was just me lowering the bar. That was me hating on myself, and that was me being like my biggest limiting factor, being my biggest hater. The thing is, there are always going to be people who don't believe in you. There are always going to be the haters. And that's already enough people saying that you can't do it. So why are you telling that to yourself? You can imagine how if there's like a football player or soccer player for you Americans taking a penalty, I'm pretty sure, like correct me if I'm wrong, but like their goal's like there and behind them is actually like the opposition team. And so they're all going to be like booing and trying to make it miss. But like even if it's not there, like you can imagine like in a stadium, like half the people when there's a penalty being taken are going to want him to miss. And so that's half the people that don't believe in him. That's half the people who are saying like he's going to miss. But imagine that player right there with like the ball in front of him and like it's just him and the goalkeeper. And imagine he's thinking in his head by himself like, damn, I'm going to miss this. You can imagine sure as hell that he will, because he didn't believe in himself. The most important part of like a 1v1 or like a penalty taker, like I read somewhere, it was like believing in yourself. Like if you don't think that, okay, I'm obviously going to like score this, right? I'm going to like score a screamer. Like if you literally take yourself like, oh, I'm probably going to miss this. You probably are right. You have to believe in yourself. And it was when I thought it is okay to get C's because like I'm just bad at English. It is what it is, right? It was then when I thought that those things became normal. But it was in secondary school when I moved schools and I had like a new start. And I wasn't like that kid who didn't know how to speaking English anymore, and it was like a fresh start, like metaphorically, but also like mentally for me. That was when I could make a change. And don't get me wrong, I did the hard thing. My mom would make me write debates like Arzu's Fair like every single week, and I'm still traumatized by them. I'd be sick and tired of like literally arguing every single thing. And I read classic books that physically pay me to read, bro, like Oliver Twist and Moby Dick was something else. Even scripting YouTube videos, I was going out of my way and in my free time doing something that directly like would improve my English skills. Like for those of you guys who know, like starting my YouTube channel to just be a way to like improve my writing, but also like speaking skills, right? Like I talk about that in like my very early videos, but they all paid off. And more importantly, it acted as proof. How can I be bad at English when I'm literally doing something like English in my free time? I've read more books than all my classmates put together. And hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not bad at English. It all starts with an internal change, and then it's an identity change. But then it's your actions that make everything else work. And it's your actions that changes your results. Imagine I hadn't put in the work. Like I've had no proof to go against the belief that I always had that I'm bad at English. You right now like think that you're like a pretty bad student. You think you're mediocre. You think like there's this one subject you're not that good at. Like maybe it's history, maths, whatever it is. And because you don't like that subject, you're not going to go out of your way to study for it, right? And not studying for that subject makes you worse at that subject. And it's kind of like a downward spiral loop. Don't let learned helplessness define you. Learned helplessness refers to a psychological phenomenon in which people feel that they have no control over the events or circumstance happening to them. And it basically means like for me, it was the fact that I couldn't speak English and like people made fun of me. That basically reinforced in my mind that, oh, I'm bad at English and there's nothing I can do. It's basically when you like do pretty bad on a history test and you just tell yourself, I'm bad at history, it is what it is. Learned helplessness is when you accept that fact and you don't do anything to rectify it. And so the point is, you might be a bad student, but it's not forever and it's definitely not fixed. It's not I am a bad student or I'm a good student. It's on a scale. If like a level 100 student and like a level 0 student, you can level up. That's the beauty of it. Maybe you're like a level 5 student right now, but that's just because you haven't leveled up and you haven't done the skills necessary. It never gets easier, you just get better. It's hard to overcome failure, but it's an opportunity to learn. And so what actually can you do to like become better at that thing? Well, you have to ask yourself, what is your bottleneck? What is the thing that's stopping you? Maybe it's the fact that you're simply not revising because, as I said, you dislike the subject, so you end up not studying for it more. And so that means you have to just go out of your way and actually sit down and do the work and revise. And you can make it easier by watching my other videos about how you can study effectively, the study equation, and how you can up the intensity to study in less amount of time. Maybe it's just a fact of like, you have to learn how to like actually learn. There's videos about that. The point is, it's all about what you choose to do. After watching this video, like it was probably like a nice little motivational boost, right? But as I said, it's all pointless without action. I knew that it was my like speaking, writing, those skills that I was missing. And so I went out of my way to train those to get better at English, right? It's the same for you. If you know your weakness, like in the video game, you have to level up that stat. Is it your productivity that's the bottleneck? Well, in that case, focus on like sitting down, getting like stuff done and like getting rid of distractions. It's the fact that you easily get distracted and then you know that's something you have to like optimize. You have to like use your phone less. People with the growth mindset believe that what they have right now is just a foundation and they can level it up. And you can. I'm living proof of it, and as are so many other people. The thing is, when you start off more disadvantaged than others, you have to put more work in. But later down the line, everything else gets harder and those people struggle because they haven't built up the habit of putting in the hard work. You'd be surprised that loads of English people, like British people, they're all like better, like arguably speaking English than me. But when you ask them like about grammar concepts, they don't actually know because they always just took it for like granted and their level of understanding is always pretty low. Whereas I had to go that extra mile. And back then it was difficult for me, but now it's paying off because I have that habit of like actually having to do the work to understand things. And that's a habit that you'll never end up losing. Become proof that you can do it. Remember, ask yourself why the problem is. Where did that belief come from? What is your bottleneck? Sometimes you have to level up the basics. Maybe it's memorization that's the problem. Maybe it's productivity. Maybe it's like specifically like memorizing dates in history. Whatever it is, the point is you need to take action upon it. And then you have to start thinking that you can level it up because that's the whole point of it. It's all a matter of change. This all happened because I moved schools, but it doesn't have to be like that. It could just be an internal change. If you're like tired of being stuck at this stage and like learn helplessness, maybe just take a moment to write in the comments what you want to improve at and what are the steps you're going to take. Break those limiting beliefs and break down the task. You're not bad at history. You're just bad at memorization, application, and testing. And those are things you can level up. Get rid of those things blocking you. And if you want extra help in all these things, because being a student isn't as easy as like school makes it out to be. You have to level up all these micro stats like memorization, reading fast, or like testing yourself, active recall, all these aspects. If you want help leveling all those up, check out my Student Accelerator program, which is helping students all around the world become better students. And you can check out the first link in the description, and I'm sure you'll like it. Anyway, take action on what you learned today, and I'll see you next time.
Oh my god, I'm so scared I'm gonna die.